In the year 490 BCE, the greatest empire the world had ever seen was stopped by a miracle. On the plains of Marathon, the armies of Persia under King Darius I met an unlikely enemy, free men of Greece. Against all odds, the invaders were driven back into the sea. But the Persian king did not forget. A decade later, a new king rose. Xerxes, son of King Darius I. Xerxes would not simply defeat Greece, he would erase it. After putting down a revolt in Egypt in 482 BCE, the new king began making preparations. From every corner of his empire, he gathered men. Persians, Medes, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Babylonians, an army so vast it seemed to swallow the earth itself. Modern historians estimate this force to be 300,000 strong, consisting of light and heavy infantry, including the 10,000 elite immortal warriors, archers, light and heavy cavalry, and skirmishers of various backgrounds. This force marched across the newly constructed pontoon bridges that would allow Xerxes to cross the sea at the Hellespont and enter Europe to begin his invasion of Greece. Greece was divided. Rival cities, bitter enemies, now forced into an uneasy alliance including city-states such as Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes, Phocis, Locris, and Thespiae. Athens and Sparta were the most famous and influential at this time. They also had an ongoing heated rivalry with each other due to past military conflicts. Some city-states would send ships, others, men, mostly hoplites, the most prominent Greek heavy infantry forces available for the time. The Greeks chose their battlefield carefully, a narrow pass called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. The name came from the several hot water springs in the area rumored to be the gates to the underworld in Greek mythology. Here, numbers meant nothing. The path was very narrow along the coastline, bottling up the large Persian army. Its narrow path would also make a charge from the Persians' 10,000-strong cavalry force futile against a Greek phalanx due to the lack of room for maneuvering the horses. The phalanx was the Greek hoplites' main battle formation. The hoplites would form lines arrayed as a wall of overlapping hoplon shields with spears pointed out above and below the shield wall. The phalanx also relied on the ranks behind the front lines to provide supporting force to charge and resist the enemy charges, while all spear points were used to attack the enemy. From the front, this formation was nearly unstoppable. At the same time, the Greek navy would hold the nearby Strait of Artemisium, blocking the Persian fleet from flanking the Greek land forces and landing troops behind them. Command of this navy was given to a Spartan named Eurybiades, even though most of the ships were supplied by Athens, who was the dominant naval power in Greece at this time. This was due to preferences of the Greek coalition, who agreed to have Sparta lead all military operations, given that the Spartan troops were the strongest in Greece at the time. However, the true mastermind of the Greek naval battle plans was the Athenian Themistocles, who led the construction of Athens's new navy and had helped gain victory over the Persians at the Battle of Marathon. The Greek navy consisted of triremes, the ship of choice for naval combat for both the Greeks and the Persians. The ship had rows of oarsmen, marines, rudders for steering, a sail, and a bronze beak used to ram other triremes during naval battles, making them sink. The Greeks assembled 147 triremes from Athens, 40 triremes from Corinth, 20 from Megara, 12 from Sicyon, 8 from Epidaurus, 7 from Eretria, 2 from Styria, 10 from Sparta, and 18 from Aegina. The Ceans sent 2 triremes and 2 smaller pentaconter ships, while another 7 pentaconters came from Locria. The total Greek force had around 270 warships. They were still heavily outnumbered as the Persians were invading with 1,300 triremes from many different nations under the empire, including Phoenicia, Egypt, and the Ionian Greek cities of Asia Minor. One of the Persian naval commanders was Queen Artemisia, the first of the Greek city of Halicarnassus. Her Greek subjects would face their brethren throughout this war, both on land and at sea. Leading the land defense, King Leonidas I of Sparta. With him, just 300 Spartans. The rest of the Spartan army had to remain in Sparta to honor the religious Carnea festival before they could march to war, just like with the earlier Battle of Marathon. But the 300 Spartans were not alone. Thousands joined them. 1,000 Thespians, 400 Thebans, 400 Corinthians, 500 Tegeans, 1,000 Phocians, 1,120 Arcadians, 200 from Phileus, and others, a total of 7,000 men from across Greece. But they were heavily outnumbered by the Persians. Numerous slaves and supporting personnel were also brought by each city-state to support the logistics of this battle. The majority of the forces that each city had also remained home to honor the Olympic Games of 480 BCE. They would mobilize to defend Greece upon the conclusion of the Games. When Xerxes arrived in the summer of 480 BCE, he expected surrender. Instead, he found defiance. When a Persian diplomat asked the Greeks to lay down their weapons and be spared, Leonidas replied with, "Molon labe," come and take them. On day one, the Persian archers attacked. Their arrows bounced off the Greek shields and armor harmlessly. Then, wave after wave, the Persian infantry attacked. But the narrow pass choked their numbers. The Greek phalanx, armed with longer spears than the Persians, could not be broken. The Persians were cut down quickly. Greek armor, Greek discipline, turned the pass into a killing ground. The phalanx held inside the pass, where it could not get flanked or overwhelmed. The Spartan contingent would destroy the Persian charges. Then they would rotate to let their Greek comrades also fight the Persians to allow for rest before their next turn on the front line. Xerxes unleashed his finest, the Immortals, 10,000 elite warriors. The name of this fighting force would be tested by the Greek Phalanx. They too were thrown back with many losses. The Persian heavy infantry could not break the Greek hoplites led by Sparta. At sea, the Battle of Artemisium raged. Storms shattered Persian fleets, and Greek ships struck hard, stopping the enemy fleet's advance. On day two, the Persian infantry charged the Greeks again, hoping they were too exhausted to resist. But the Greek rotations kept fresh men on the front lines. The Persian assault failed a second time. The Persian dead littered the field, while the Greeks had only minor losses. Leonidas's strategy was working well so far. But then came Betrayal. A secret path around the pass of Thermopylae, revealed to Xerxes by a Greek shepherd named Ephialtes, became part of the Persian battle plan. Ephialtes was likely looking for a reward of Persian gold in exchange for his guidance through this hidden mountain path. Earlier, Leonidas had dispatched 1,000 Phocians to guard this path around Thermopylae. But this small force was pinned down by arrows and could not stop the Persian flanking force from breaking through. Greek messengers were sent to warn Leonidas and the Greek coalition. Leonidas knew what came next. Most were sent away, but the Spartans stayed. So did 700 Thespians and a reluctant force of 400 Thebans, whose city was about to surrender to Persia, though many of the Theban troops wanted to resist until the end. On day 3, the Persians renewed their assault on the pass. The brave Greeks fought until their spears shattered, then with swords, then with bare hands. The Persian immortals emerged from the mountain path behind the Greek lines. The Phalanx was surrounded. Chaos ensued, but the Greeks fought on. Their Spartan king fell, but they did not break. They fought to protect Leonidas's body. The Persians took heavy losses once again and had to resort to using their archers from a distance. The last of the Greek forces all fought to the death. The Persians surveyed the battlefield cautiously, making sure all of their enemies were dead. Thermopylae was lost. At Artemisium, the Greek fleet withdrew, as Eurybiades and Themistocles knew it was useless to stay. They left the seas to Persia. Xerxes' forces marched south through Boeotia and into Attica. The cities who had submitted were spared. Those who had resisted, seized and destroyed. The citizens of Athens were evacuated to the island of Salamis and the Peloponnesian city of Troezen. Some citizens stayed in Athens to defend the Acropolis. They were all that was left when the Persians arrived in the city. They promptly burned the city and took out those that remained. What mattered more was that the Athenian people were saved. King Xerxes had successfully taken Athens like his father desired. At first glance, it seemed that the Greeks were losing the war. But something had changed. The stand at Thermopylae became a symbol of resistance, of sacrifice, 3 days. That echoed through history. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. If you enjoyed this dive into ancient warfare, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell us which battle you want to see next.